And another good friend in the area of Alexandria was Andre Frazier. Andre Frazier was a close friend to Paul, my brother, Paul Carter Jr. And with him going with him and playing, riding bikes and stuff, I kind of joined him because my brother and I were kind of close. So by being close, we almost did everything together. Like I said, we worked with the newspaper. And then at the church, the Catholic Church, when they needed altar boys, they generally start with boys in the fourth grade. But since I was in the third grade and my brother was there, they wanted to keep both of us together. So we were together, altar boys at St. Joseph. And we served longer than what they normally ask you to serve. You know, after elementary school, you generally could stop, but we continued while we were both still in high school. That's Parker Gray. So, and of course, the priest and them loved that because, and the reason they loved it because we were so dependable. We were always on time, and we would always be there. Even on days that was treacherous weather or something, we would be there to help help mass, help with mass, because you know in the Catholic Church they do mass during the week as well, and they wanted altar boys to be there. Back then, it was to me that's the way it was. But as time went on in the church, you know, the altar boys wasn't as servable as they are then that they were then. That's how we were brought up. You know, if you're gonna do something, you do it, and that's it. You know, you do it, and I thank my parents for that because it brought in discipline. It certainly brought in discipline, and when you work for something or do something, it's people have respect for you, and they see how you grow up. They saw that the dependability is carried with you through life, you know. So that's one of the things that we did, you know. Oh, getting back to the community, what it was is that children could play in anywhere in the neighborhood almost. They didn't have to worry too much about getting lost or found or something, but they did have to worry about if they got in trouble. And that's as I said in the beginning, word would find you will find out, you know. So you it kind of help you to be on your best behavior out in the areas, you know. Of course, you know, kids may have gotten in fights and stuff like that, you know, but for me, I stayed away from that, you know, a little bit in the neighborhood. I could go around the block, go around different parts of the city. As I got older, we had bikes. My brother and I both, we rode, we could take a bike through the city with no problem, you know. And my mother was loose enough to let us do that, you know, because she was that protective at times, you know. And my mother would carry, when we were little, my mother would carry us downtown Alexandria. That would be King Street, Columbus Street, all those places in that area that used to be called down for shopping, all that kind of thing. And one of the stores that she used to carry us to was J.C. Penney's, you know, to shop for us for our clothing and stuff. And a lot of the friends in the neighborhood, they knew so much that we we could go to anyone in the neighborhood, and they almost knew who you were, you know. And one of the things that I did after mass on Sunday was to go to this lady's house called Mrs. Campbell and her son Linwood, who was we were still good friends. Cause I would go around the block and play with him. I forgot to mention him, and play with him sometime. We meet, talk, play, whatever we do. And what she would do, she would tell me, "Come on around and Sunday morning." I would think I was a teenager and have breakfast with them. So I would do that. We'd go around and have breakfast. I was invited by her, you know, like that. My mother got a little jealous, but but I thought it was an outgoing, you know, just to go in. My father didn't care. You know, he just the fact is he just knew where you were, you know. So that's one thing. That's the kind of neighborhood we had, you know. I stayed in Alexandria. In fact, when I met my wife, I we lived in apartments off of Duke Street because that's another story. During that time, blacks had a hard time getting into places because of integration, and my wife and I experienced that. We went around them several times and couldn't get in. They always say they wouldn't have no room or space, but we knew it was more than that. It was because of the color of you. They're not going to allow you to integrate. But we eventually got a place. I live in this apartment called Crestview, right off of Duke Street, right across the street from Landmark Shopping Center. That no longer exists now because that's being rebuilt. But that's the way I lived for close to 3 years, 3 to 4 years. And then I finally found a house in Maryland. My wife, when we move from an apartment, we don't want to get another apartment. We want to find a house, and we were able to get a new house, actually a new house in Maryland at the time. And that's during the period where integration was opening up and they were spreading out, a little bit more. But it was still somewhat difficult, in a lot of things, because even some of my friends said that they had the same problem, trying to find it. But eventually they got it. But I went to one of the people in Alexandria. His name was Fernand Day, and I talked to him about it, and he said, Lawrence, let's see what we can do. And that's how we got our apartment, see what we can do. And so, but I think he worked with the civil rights issue as well as he might have worked with the NAACP too as well, So with that, we kept trying and we did get a place to go. Now, I don't know what was behind it, but we found a place to go to live, and that's where we live, up in near Landmark apartment called. I think they still exist, called Crestview. They might have changed their name though. They might have changed their name. So we lived there, for a while. And then after that, I moved to Clinton, Maryland. That's where I lived there. And while I was in Clinton there, I went to school. I still like going to school in Virginia, because that's me. I went to Northern Virginia Community College part-time. I got a job, another job. I worked for the post office during one summer, as I mentioned. And then I got a job after not going to college the following year with the Library of Congress. So I worked at the Library of Congress, thinking that I wasn't going to stay there, just a job, So with that, I worked there, and I kind of like stayed there. In fact, I retired from the Library of Congress, working there. It got beneficial. So I received a degree from Northern Virginia Community College, part-time. I went part-time to get that degree, in computer programming and data processing, which was an area that's new coming into this society. And it was getting into computers and machinery things. So I guess you can say I was in the area where computer was coming into our society slowly, surely. But I can say I saw the change. I saw the change all the way through from what they call manual putting in information, going to cathode ray tubes, computer, transfer data into the and reading data to the cathode ray tube, which is like a TV, of course, and I saw all of that, and then I saw the change when everything was input, what they call online. I saw all of that change, during that era, But like I said, I had moved to Clinton at the time, but I remained very close to Alexandria even today. We just celebrated 60 years of my class graduating, and my class is the very last class, high school class, and that to me is a legacy. So we did a celebration last weekend, Friday and Saturday, celebrating the legacy of us and also the legacy Parkway High School for 105 years, which was very, very a great program we did, and we're glad we do it. We do it because the school doesn't exist anymore. There are landmarks that exist for us, but the school doesn't. And I have to say, people might say we missed it because we know we got a good education And we know a lot, and I can tell you a lot of the students did very well, from that school, So that's the legacy of that situation. That's why we still celebrate, and we hope the history will tell us this, that this is how it was, and how African America did continue to progress and proceed, from the city of Alexandria.